So, hello everybody, welcome again back to Jan Wants to Sail. Today it's a very different video because today we will talk about the decision-making process. We bought a boat, we will take possession of the boat this year in September. We will sail the ARC, the Atlantic Rally for Cruises, this year, 2024, starting in the Canarian Islands, and we will do the World ARC starting in St. Lucia in the Caribbean in January 2025. So we will be sailing for a long time, for almost 2 years. Everyone will have a different opinion about the boats, and what I will share now is my personal opinion. For different circumstances, I would do different things. If we only were cruising in the Med, would be for sure a different boat. If we wanted to go to high latitudes, would be a different boat. If we would be sailing with a different crew, it would be a different boat. If we had a different budget, it would be a different boat. But let me guide you through the decision-making process today. So let's dive into. First of all, today's topics. I want to explain the basic requirements to you guys, discuss catamaran, trimaran or monohull. We will look into condomarans, the comfy boats, the comfy catamarans. We will look at performance cruisers, racers, or indeed mono. We will compare the different helm position, aft helm, raised helm or sport top, flybridge, forward cockpit. What suits the best? What's the best solution for what we're up to? Should the boat be new or second-hand? Oh, this will be controversial probably. I will guide you through what our hull material, aluminium, wood, vacuum infused, foam core, balsa core, carbon or e-glass, whatever is out there. I will explain to you how our boat will be built and what's inside. And then we go through which equipment did we choose and what did we not choose. And by the end, we will have a look at the toys that we already will bring to the boat when we start our journey. What are our basic requirements? So we are a family of 4, so 2 parents, 2 kids, and we will have occasional guests. We want to have a boat that is big enough to host potentially another family with 2 kids. So we need at least 3 cabins and better 4 cabins. And of course, therefore we need at least 2 heads, if not more, or better 3. And the boat must be easy to handle. I want to be able to sail the boat entirely on my own. I want to be able to docking myself without any other help. I want to be able to set and raise the anchor, to set sails. I want to be able and capable to sail the full boat on my own when everyone else is only watching, or even maybe when I'm alone doing legs by myself, or if someone gets sick. So easy handling is paramount for us. Decent quality, of course. We sail around the world with our family, with my most precious, and therefore seaworthiness and is absolutely important. And the boat must be safe for my family and for our friends. But I also did boat races a long time back, and I still want at least some fun to sail. A good feedback from the helm and nice performance when sailing. Also creature comforts. I don't want people to get seasick or to feel uncomfortable. So the more fun the boat, so the less creature comforts you have. So also there we need to find a compromise. And it must be affordable for us. We are not super rich. We are not the poorest either. So we must still look into what gives us the biggest bang for the buck. And therefore, boat must be affordable. Eventually, we will make the tour for 2 years. And after that, we might need to find a way to deal with the boat when we are out, when we finished our tour. So either sell it or rent it out, put it on charter. We must find a way, and this also is one basic criteria for us, that we don't lose too much money on the boat. So the boats that we were looking at were monohulls, 50 to 55 feet, catamarans in the range of 44 to 52 feet, trimarans between 45 and 51 feet. When you look into the categories, it's an overall category. For example, for marina, one point is the costs. How much do you pay to be in the marina? With the monohulls, they're cheapest since you usually only pay for the length of the boat. If you have a catamaran or a trimaran, you pay, depending where you are, 1.5 times or 2 times the price for the length. So cats and trimarans are much more expensive in the marina than monohulls. But also monohulls are much easier to dock in a marina. So you easily can slide in with the 50 or 55 feet. Still easy to dock even without a bow thruster. And if you have bow thruster, it's really easy. Very easy for docking also is a cat. You have got 2 engines and you can control the boat like a tank. You can drive them, you can position them very easy. I never had problems with a cat for docking. It's always been a blast. With the Trimaran, I can mostly refer to the Neil 45 that we chartered. This was by far the hardest to dock and to put into the marina, and that boat was the only one where I thought a bow thruster is absolutely mandatory to have a safe docking in the marina. Also for the space on board, with the mono hull with arranged 50 to 55 feet, the space feeling in cats or trimarans is much better. You're above the water, you've got open views, you've got much more space, and the volume usually is much bigger than in a mono hull, and therefore the pluses go to the catamaran and trimaran. And also what I particularly do not like on a mono hull in the long run is you're like living in a cave. You're cooking downstairs, you're living downstairs, only for sailing you go upstairs. And I did not want to stay in the cave all the time. The catamarans that I've been on, they all had the cabins also in the hulls, but the trimarans, the best, what I liked there the most, also the master cabin was on a ground level. So you don't need to go down below at all. So you are always in an open and very airy environment. You always can look outside. You have large windows, so that gives a much more comfortable feeling for living. On the other hand, then, payload, a monohull can take much more payload without the penalty of speed. And cats are much more sensitive to additional payloads, depending, of course, very much on what kind of boat you have. If you got a performance boat, every gram you feel. If you already got a heavy boat, another 500 kilos or another ton, probably you won't recognize it. With the Trimaran, they are not that weight sensitive. I did not test it myself so much, but I talked with a friend who even loaded his boat, and he didn't really care about that too much. And he still said the boat behavior is good and the performance is very good. For safety, this covers quite a bit. I don't want to discuss now like better on the bottom with a upright or a flipped over on the top of the ocean. I don't want to go into these discussions. I would assume that all boats are built in a safe manner. The cats or trimarans that we looked at all had enough bulkheads to be positively buoyant, meaning even if you punch in lots of holes, they still would float. And the boat that we chose even has four closed compartments, so even if you hit things, the boat still would float and still remain stable. For this is really not the topic that I mean at the moment. I mean, when you're on the way, what do you pay attention to? You're sailing the boat, you need contact to the people who are in the kitchen, who are in a salon, who are moving around. In a catamaran, you've got high guardrails. You can grab the rails. They're mounted on the coach roof, so you've got very wide decks. The boat does not heel, so moving around on a catamaran is much more easy, much safer, especially when you've got some wind, boats not heeling, and that makes life on a catamaran, on the trimaran, much safer, at least to me, and I felt much safer on that kind of boats. Didn't say that I felt unsafe on a monohull, but when traveling with family and friends, the catamaran, trimaran, at least to me, gave much more safe feeling when moving around on deck, when communicating, and so on and so forth. So therefore, I give a plus to both mono and cat, but the trimaran that I was sailing, I felt the safest for the operation on board, for moving around. Then for watch keeping, the monohull, you have a cockpit outside and people are down in a saloon or in cooking something, you're disconnected. Unless you've got really a deck saloon. Being disconnected, being out in the weather, you don't have so much protection, and when you're in the saloon on a catamaran or on a trimaran, you still can look around, at least the models that I preferred. So you can be watch keeping with a cup of tea in the saloon, you can still look around. You've got in several boats 360 degrees, almost 360 degrees all around, so you can still sit in a warm, protected from all weather. The boat's running on autopilot, you can steer the boat from inside, you can look up the sails still if everything's good. So only to adjust the sails, you would have to go outside. So watch keeping, big plus for cats and for trimarans, at least for the models that we were looking at. And healing, we touched it before. monos if the wind's from the side or if you're tacking against the wind. There's quite much heeling. With the catamaran, it's almost no heeling, at least not noticeable. And the trimaran is heeling a little, which is big plus somehow. You feel more the operation of the boat, but also when we were sailing in Croatia with the Nil 45 at 20-25 knots of breeze with a short chopping wave, about 1 meter or 1.5 meter. When I was sailing, I saw my dad sitting downstairs in the cockpit having a cup of coffee standing on a table. And I had sailing sensation. My father was completely relaxed and had his coffee. So that's still a plus for the trimarans. I really felt comfy and I felt good with the heeling sensation, also with the steering behavior. We picked a catamaran range 44 to 52 feet. So next chapter is condomaran, meaning comfortable catamarans. So the family types like Lagoon 450 or the Bali 4.6 that we were sailing and so on, comparing to performance cruisers, racers, trimarans, and cruising monohulls. At anchor, the condomarans like Bali 4.6, it's so good on this kind of boats. If you really live at anchor, you've got like an apartment on the water. You've got all the creature comforts, huge standing refrigerator, you've got a good view, you've got huge flybridge with a seating area on top, and you name it. It's really nice if you prefer to live at anchor. But therefore sailing fun, it's really not there, at least not for me. For sailing, the Helm feel is very indirect. You can't tack very well, the performance is poor, and you end up using much more fuel because you can't sail against the wind so much. With less wind, you need to turn on the engines, and therefore also the noise is a topic. As you're running more with engine, it also gets noisy, and you more likely encounter bridge deck slapping for this kind of yachts. Looking to performance cruisers, still anchor life is good. Usually, considering no flybridge, the anchor life is not that comfy, but it's still close to that. Sailing fun is much different. We will come to the helm positions in a moment. Fuel consumption, also if you've got a performance yacht that can tack well, that behaves, that also can sail at less wind, you will have less fuel consumption. Therefore, also the noise is less, the slender hulls cut through the water better, bridge deck slapping. It's controversial. It really depends on the yacht. My experience is didn't have bridge deck slapping on those. So the noise, it's much better on that boat. Passage times, of course, if you consider not to use so much fuel, the passage times will be much better. And all of this even gets better with the racer. Anchor life gets more and more limited, less creature comfort, but therefore sailing fun is completely next level. Fuel consumption is much less. You can sail at much less winds. You will get higher speeds at more winds, so you will barely use the engines at all. For the noise, I have not been on the carbon yachts yet, but I've seen many reviews where they said the noise on performance yacht usually is much higher because you've got carbon very stiff and much more noisy when you're cutting through the waves. But also you're sailing much faster. Maybe some of my friends will invite me to their performance yachts and I would like to check it out myself. And passage times, no need to discuss about that. Trimarans, I felt very good with trimarans at anchor, sailing fun. The boat with the best sailing fun for myself was the Nil 45, hands down. Fuel consumption was very little, even when running under engine. The fuel consumption was very low, but we barely used the engine because the sailing performance at low winds was so good. We could tack very well, so I still love that boat. Also for the noise, no bridge deck slapping whatsoever, and the slender hulls just cut through the waves, and you don't hear any noise from slapping waves or something. You're sailing with 10 knots, and you hear almost nothing. So it's It's really cool. I really enjoyed that a lot. And passage times, yeah, the Neil 45 already won the ARC, and they won several races. The fastest boats are Trimaran, so I would go with them if passage times were the criteria. And the cruising monohulls, I've been on so many monohulls. The minus there doesn't mean I don't like it, but compared to the other yachts, multi-hulls are much more comfortable than monohulls at anchor. You have got rolling is possible, and also you've got much less deck space. And on the other side, sailing fun. If you only sail during daytimes, like hopping from marina to marina, sailing fun is I love sailing monos. I really like to be with them. If I would live in the Med, or if I would only sail in the Mediterranean, I probably would only have a monohull. Fuel consumption, as also here, really much depends, so I don't want to comment too much on that. Although with the Trimarans, if you've got a performance yacht, when we were sailing, we were still under sail, and when we just slipped through a fleet of monos, and when we were done, they all took the sails down and started the engines, and therefore noise. I like the noise also of monohulls. I like how they slide through the waters, and if you don't use engines too much, there cannot be bridge deck slapping anyhow. You may slap on waves, but that's sailing. Passage times, for me, it's neutral. They're more or less a benchmark, the standard for crossing oceans. So we went for a performance cruiser. And the next category, Helm stations. How do they compare? Most condomarans come with flybridges. I've been sailing the Lagoon 450, the Bali 4.6 with flybridge. And yes, I really love to be on the flybridge. When cruising, having a drink up there, looking around, I really like glance at the environment. I really love it. But for sailing fun, the radar feel from up there is not good. If you have a flybridge, also the boom must hang much higher. That means the center of the sail is much higher. So sail handling gets much worse, and it gets much more dangerous if you want to hoist the sails, especially the main sail. Sail handling gets worse, and therefore that's the sail fun for me was not there. Still, I enjoyed the whole trip, but for the sailing sensation, it's not there. The sail control, as I mentioned, if you have got a very high hanging boom, just at the Bali 4.6, you had to climb up on top of the bimini. I would never do this in any kind of heavy weather. So also, or if there are any waves, it's too high up, it's shaking, and so this more theoretically. And I understand why many people just take boats like that and just run them under engine. For watch keeping, a flybridge, you're disconnected from the people. The flybridge is on top, and you need to go down if you want to talk with the people. The Genoa or the jib, it's blocking your view, but besides that, to the windward side, you have very good view. Mainly the issue here for me is the disconnection from the rest. So if you're cooking something or if you're having a rest, the person on the helm is very far away, and you would need a walkie-talkie or something to communicate there. So this is, for me, a deal breaker together with the sail handling and center of gravity of the sail. Docking with a flybridge, you need people who do the line handling and to help you. If you're standing on a flybridge, if it's in the middle, you really would have to run quickly to the corners. And a way out would be to a remote control for the two engines. I was on a boat with a raised helm, with a sport top, and this boat had a second engine control station on port aft. And for safety, as I said, raising, hoisting, and taking down the sails or reefing. Center of gravity is too high and windage gets high, so I really don't see the safe operation, especially if you're short-handed. And again, cross communication. If your partner asks you for what you would like to eat or how you're doing, you always need to go up or at least use a walkie-talkie. You don't see the people that you're communicating with. Might be good if you're in a crisis, but for good communication, it does not work. The aft helm is very much the opposite of those. So cruising fun still is good, but your view is blocked by the coach roof, by the saloon, and you're sitting very far in the aft. So for cruising, not for sailing, but for cruising, just sitting down and to relax. I much more preferred the position on the flybridge. So I would not give this the biggest points. But for sailing fun, it's a very different thing. Since the helm station is close to the rudder, you can have an easy connection to the rudder. That allows you a much better helm feeling. You're close to the water, you're close to the waves, and therefore it gives you a very different sensation of sailing. So if you like to sail, the aft helm is really something that makes the sailing sensation much better than the flybridge. For sail control, when you're sitting very far in the aft and you can look up, you have good control over the sails. For watch keeping, everything is on one level. You can see all the people from the cockpit, the saloon, even when the people are standing at the foredeck, you still can see everyone. There's pretty much no chance that someone can escape from you. So when sailing with family and when you're concerned if everyone is fine, aft helm, you see everyone, period. For docking, can't be easier than that. The boat that we will have has 2 engine controls on either side. So if docking on starboard or docking on port, I can go to the either side and control the engines there. You can do the line handling by yourself, so you will be able to do the docking entirely on your own without help from others. That all gives a good feeling of safety as well, visibility for all. I heard one complaint that when you're in an aft helm, you would be exposed to waves from the back. Yeah, sure, but it's in the same like on a monohull. Similar position, similar condition. So if waves rushing from the back, can happen on a monohull as well. So I wouldn't see why this should be so much worse than on a monohull. But I will report about that later. Communication, therefore, is very easy with the aft helm. Everyone's on one level and you see everyone. You can talk with everyone. So that's a way to go for me. If you have a raised helm, it's like a good compromise of all. Many catamarans have a raised helm or a sport top. Same the Trimarans from Neil that we were sailing. Actually, I think they're kind of the best of all worlds. Cruising fun is good, sailing fun is good. On the Neil, as I said, also the rudder feel was very, very good. Sail control was good. You can look below the jib, potentially, depending on where it stands. You at least have a good view to all sides. Sail control is very good from there. You've got short ways to the sails to handle them, and you don't have so long lines to hoist the sail. The friction is less, so that makes sail handling also much easier. For docking, it depends very much where this is. It open? The boats that I had, okay, the Trimarans were still not so easy to do docking on your own. If docking to the side would have been easy, with the aft to the pier would have been much harder to do that alone. With regular catamarans would do, as I said, one catamaran that I was on had even a control station, the engine controls at port aft for safety. Good thing is you're away from the waves, you're away from the elements, you can enclose it very well. Still, when you're sitting up in a raised helm, you can still communicate down to the cockpit, to the sitting area. Depending on the layout, you also can communicate with the chef or with the people in the saloon. It's possible, but the communication was still much better with the aft helm. Now, the last thing, forward cockpit. I haven't been sailing on a forward cockpit, but nevertheless I watched many reviews, so I can't really tell about the cruising fun. But I assume, at least the boats that have a forward cockpit, they were like gunboats and so on, and I assume that they will deliver a lot of sailing fun. Sail control, you're sitting right next to the mast, so hoisting sails, reefing, I don't think it gets much easier than that. And the view, hard to say. I don't know if you're sitting right below the main and to look up and to control the sails. I need to try it myself. So someone who has a yacht catamaran with a forward cockpit, I would like to see that. I would like to try. For docking, I think you also will need deck hands to do the line handling. Docking with a forward cockpit will be quite challenging because you're in the center of the boat, means you more or less can see the corners, but you still need people to do the line handling. For safety, I assume it's good. I really can't tell so much. You're in the middle of the boat, means you will be very safe against movements, so that it will be quite comfortable in that area. And also cross communication, I would say it's very easy to communicate to all people. You see the people on the net, the people in the saloon. So I think the communication there also will be very good and fine. So we went for the aft helm. New or second-hand? That's a question. So if you have got a new boat, maybe you get a warranty. In our case, we have a 7-year warranty for structure parts, 5 years on the engine, and 3 years for some other parts which are not wear and tear related. For used ones, no, you buy the boat and that's about it. And at the moment when the money is transferred and you got the papers, it's all yours. Tested and refined, that's a good thing. With the used one, if you have a boat that sailed around the world that is well taken care of, you can be pretty sure that everything is in good condition and it's tested well and all the child problems are all fixed. If you had a good owner, also enough spare parts will be there. So that's one reason why we originally planned to go for a second-hand boat aged between 5 and 10 years. In best case, that did some ocean crossings already. So where you know it works and it's fine. If you got a new boat, if they're one-offs, I would doubt that they are in a good quality. If you have got a mass-produced boat, where the 30 hulls or so were produced, you can be sure that with the increasing number of hulls, also the quality is getting better. Maintenance really depends on the quality of the yacht itself, on the installations, but also on the warranty. So my expectation is if you've got a long-term warranty, also the quality should be better. Otherwise, the warranty for the production company will get quite expensive. So I hope we did the right pick there. And with used ones, of course, depends on previous owner and the quality of the yacht itself. Total cost of ownerships, I must assume that most boats are money pits. And for the new ones, we will find out. I had chats with some owners and they said it's not as bad as it's often told, that 5 or 10% of the new value that you need to plan this every year. All said, it's much less if you take care of the boat. That means the more you live on the boat, the more you take care of it, the less will be the maintenance costs. Availability, if you want to buy for new ones, several companies have a long waiting list. Some do not. So you can be lucky that you get a slot if a buyer couldn't get the money together or so. You can be lucky. If you want to go for a used boat, lots of boats are on the market. You pretty much can pick the boat that you want, assuming you have enough money to spare and you don't pay too much attention to the value that you get for the money. There are lots of boats on the market. Prices in my eyes are dropping, but for now it's getting better to buy second-hand boats, but I think we are not there yet. That's also why we went for a new boat. And for the efforts, I must say, for a buying process for a new yacht, it's fairly easy, at least with the packages that we bought. I will get through that later. If you have a used one, you need to visit the yacht. You need to do negotiations with the owner. You need to do a survey, haul out, and you must agree to the selling conditions. And we were once very close to close the deal with the owner. Then eventually when we set up the contract, it got too risky for us, because if you send this amount of money and something goes wrong, it's a disaster. So you need to have the right conditions to buy the boat. So then we went for the new yacht. Hull material, aluminium, steel, wood, vacuum infused foam core, vacuum infused balsa core, carbon, unobtainium, e-glass, whatever is there, aluminium and steel. Aluminium for catamarans, there are some for high latitudes. I love aluminium. It's robust, it's relatively light, but it's still very uncommon for catamarans. There's some like Mumby, I like that yachts a lot. Aluminium catamarans, also performance catamarans, but they're not available in the mass production market, and on the second-hand market, not easy to find. And for a new one, we didn't have time to do all the production process and so on. Also, we don't have enough experience, so I would be afraid to make too many mistakes on the way. For steel, it's no option for a catamaran in my eyes, too heavy, and also very maintenance heavy. Painting and rust is an issue. For wood, not for a catamaran. But vacuum-infused foam core. Many performance yachts are vacuum-infused foam core. They're quite rigid. They're still very light and not sensitive to osmosis and so on. Vacuum-infused balsa core. It's very light. It's cheaper than foam core, but also if they're completely filled with resin, also they should not be sensitive to osmosis. And then carbon or unobtainium. Carbon is a very light material, of course, very stable. It's sensitive to electrolysis. So you must be very careful. And our boat has a vacuum-infused foam core for all underwater parts. It is vacuum-infused balsa core for everything above the waterline. And it has carbon parts for structural components like bulkheads. So we got a mixture of different materials. I hope everything goes fine. The company where we bought the boat, they already have quite some experience with that. So I just must assume that this will be a good solution for our boat. Then what else do we have? Which equipment and why? This is a long thing. First of all, safety. We sail the ARC, the Atlantic Rally for Cruisers, and the World ARC. They have got very high requirements for the safety on board and for the equipment. So we've got tons of safety gear, medikits. I mean, lots of stuff you already see here in my room. We've got lots of medicine, different navigation instruments, including a sextant and so on. So communication, VHF is mandatory. SSB, single sideband, is mandatory for the World ARC. We've got Starlink on board and another satellite system, probably Iridium Go or something similar. We still didn't decide yet. We will see. For power, our boat has solar panels over the davits with 1.2 kilowatt peak. We have got a wave generator, so when we're sailing across, we are generating our energy by the movement through the water. And by the data sheets, this should be enough to cover the whole energy of the boat. So even at night when we are sailing, we will not drain the batteries. And the batteries, we've got 5 kilowatt hours in lithium ion. And also on top, we have a 10 kVA generator. So energy-wise, we should be set very well with different energy sources. We've got a water maker with 60 liters per hour, and we also have a second water tank. So we can run the water maker for a very long time, so it should not be a big issue when we've got enough sun, or if we are generating enough energy with the wave generator, shouldn't be an issue. And also we've got some luxury goods. As you know, happy wife, happy life. We've got a dishwasher on board, washing machine, dryer combo, and also we sailors. Then what white sails do we have? We have a square top mainsail on lazy jacks with a lazy back with 3 reefs per default. We have got an overlapping Genoa, and as colored sails, we have got a huge Code Zero and a ginormous parasailer. We do not have storm sails yet. On the boat, there's no inner forestail possible. It doesn't fit with the stability of the bowsprit. Reason is also I expect to sail most of the time rather downwind, and if there's too much wind, we take down all the sails. And there's some windage with the boat. If there's rather too much wind, the wind will still push us forward. So the risk is more that we are too fast and not too slow. And I do not expect that we will have to hammer against the wind if there's much wind. So let's see how that works out. And as a dinghy, we've got a dinghy with a 9 horsepower outboard. Then toys. As I mentioned before, for food, we have a Thermomix. We also, besides the gas-fired stove, we have an additional induction stove / grill that we can also use in the cockpit and cook or grill our fish. We've got walkie-talkies, also with headset. We've got different assortments of snorkeling gear. Diving, we already there in one box is an air body diving gear. We have it set up that with one person you can dive at maximum for 12 meters, which should be very good for checking the anchor. And for two people can dive at the same time to at most 6 meters. Then wing foiler, we most likely will get a wing foiler, and also fishing gear we will have on board. We already have a stand-up paddle board, and of course music. You see, I like to play music, so I have a small guitar with me, also a portable piano which even can fold. And besides that, we will have much more stuff on board, toys. So let's discuss in the chat. If you've got questions, if you've got other opinions, please share it with me. I will share my experience with this as well. So from now on, in about 2 months, we will take possession of the boat. And then I really can tell if the things that I discussed with you today is real. And the final verdict and the lessons learned will then follow in 2026 when we finished, hopefully, the trip around the world. So please subscribe for more, and yeah, see you later then.